and we're currently live. Hi, everybody.
Great.
This
She
is our
brought in Kyle, so Kyle can do his heavy breathing in the background again.
yeah. That's okay. Mine is in here as well, and you'll hear him like walk his nails on the hardwood floor, or he
Yeah.
does this thing.
Yeah.
He does this thing where he'll like shake his head, but his whole body shakes, and it's the loudest thing. Where I guess his ears flapping or something. It's
Right.
like ridiculously loud every time he shakes. It's insane. So,
Yep.
anyways, I digress. Are you ready for me to roll that intro and let's do the thing? That's okay. Mine is. Oh, look at that. It's me talking. That intro and I tried to share it, but it's talking instead. There we go.
Well, then
Good
it
times.
just means
All right.
it's working,
Yeah,
apparently, right?
that's right. Anyways, you ready? Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's run the intro and get started. And go.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. That's right. We're dropping the bomb on everybody. Anyways, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is the Dharma Time hour, and as always, he is at the Dope Doctor, and I'm at the Dharma Guy, and together we are Dope and Dharma. What's up?
Hola.
You're very energetic today.
Man, I just drove all the way from Orlando, man. It's like a whole hour.
Yeah, I walked all the way from the living room, so I'm quite exhausted at the moment.
I had a pretty good experience, though, man. I went and toured the Salvation Army's adult recovery center.
Right on.
So, I mean, obviously, they're there for anybody that needs help, anybody that needs addiction recovery, and they're willing to start fresh and over, and are willing to abide by the rules. They can live there for free as long as they work there. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool, man. Yeah. Yeah, I liked what you were explaining earlier and how it all worked. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know all the ins and outs of the Salvation Army. I know, bits and pieces, I guess, but it's very interesting.
Yeah. I never knew anything about it. I just thought that they were like ringing bells. You know? They're the ones that ring bells, right?
Yeah, it's the Santa Claus that's out front. Ring, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that's all I ever knew about it, to be honest with you.
I knew more than that. Like, I knew they did things. I knew they had an organization. I knew they took donations. I knew they had a restore. Right. I was not aware of the inner workings. Yeah. So, but that's cool.
That's the big deal. They they were able to fund all that stuff through donations and the store. So, go support your local Salvation Army.
Absolutely.
But I'm here now, Trinity. I'm here with you, ready to do Dharma Time with my beautiful friend, Dharma Guy. So,
yeah. So, thank you for those of you who Richard Coleman is watching us on Facebook at the moment and says I'm going to start calling Dharma Time the Daily Show. I'm assuming because of the comedic routine in the beginning there. And as I just stated, he's watching us on Facebook Live. So if you're listening to this at another time via one of your whatever podcasting platform you choose to listen, you want to watch us live, you can always do that on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch now. If you look up Dope and Dharma, you'll find us there. Oh, he said frequency. Well, see, Mondays we do the Couch Live on Monday evenings, both through podcasting live platforms and local radio stations, 1680 AM and 100.7 FM. And then on that show, we talk typically about drugs and alcohol related issues, not always just those. Like last night, for instance, we talked about decriminalization. Canada is joining Portugal and at least trying it. So we talked about what that means and if it's going to be effective or not, what our thoughts were. Today, of course, is Dharma Time. So on Tuesdays, 1 o'clock, you can catch us live, usually at 1 o'clock. Today was a little bit different.
We're going to talk about 1 o'clock in Central Time.
It's 1 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk about tolerance, acceptance, and agreement. And then, of course, on Fridays. Fridays is a little bit different. Fridays we do We the Middle, typically, where we talk about the daily topics, usually political related. Sometimes we'll throw some sports. As of right now, we'll do more sports when football starts because that's kind of what we both care about. But even though right now I think I want to say Boston and Golden State are tied up right now, 1-1 in the NBA Finals.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, I haven't watched a single second of it, but anyways, Richard, we appreciate your eyeballs. Thank you for watching. Good luck. I'm not sure if you had that runoff yet because I know you're running for commissioner in your local. Is it city or county commissioner? But
up there with our race team, there where our race team is from. We actually
Richard,
have a race stop
I know
in
he
your area.
made it. yeah, I know he made it into the runoff, so congratulations on that. And I don't
Right.
know when the runoff is, but we wish you luck. And we appreciate your input as always.
Right.
Anyway, so let's get started, man. let's
Yeah.
let's go ahead and talk. So,
Right.
this month, I don't know. So I'm fully aware now that we have listeners from other countries. So I'm not sure if they have the same like national days and stuff. I would assume they don't. I don't know. But here in
Yeah.
America, the two there's we we read the list off. It's there's quite a few. But the ones that get the most attention right now are Pride Month and Men's Health Month. Although I'm a little disheartened that PTSD Month, or PTSD Awareness Month, um, doesn't get as much playtime. But I don't know. I digress.
Or
I don't make those
or
decisions.
national Dairy Month. This is Dairy Month.
That's right. Yes, it
Drink
is.
your milk, kids.
It's also National Give a Large Amount of Balloons Month or something. So whatever.
Yeah.
But the two that get the most airtime right now are Pride Month and Men's Health Month. We'll have probably a few shows pertaining to men's health, only because him and I both, we what is I can't think of the word. Identify. We both identify as men. I say that tongue in cheek, obviously, because that's what we're talking about today, kind of. So Pride Month. Last year we had a lot of guests on. We talked about Pride Month. We might do that again. Who knows? But it got me to thinking, right? I hear the words thrown around a lot: acceptance, tolerance, agreement, and sometimes I think people use those words interchangeably. But I don't think they are, right? From a spiritual sense, I talk a lot about acceptance oftentimes, and I think they get they get them all confused in the sense of this. Internally, they think, okay, I don't want to accept something because if I do, that means I agree with it. And sometimes they think accepting something and tolerating are the same thing. And I think that that's what causes a lot of the internal strife for people, right? And I think you and I put it really well earlier. I think it was you that started it, but when we were talking earlier on the phone prior to this show, I think you're the one that said externally it doesn't really look any different, right? Um, between tolerance and acceptance. Agreement might look a little bit different, but tolerance and acceptance kind of look the same from the outside looking in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought you were going to take that and run with it, but you did not.
Oh, I like where you're going. You're
Yeah, I think they look the same on the outside, but internally, obviously, this is a show about spirituality. So, from a spiritual sense, that internal struggling, I think, is what like changes, if you will, the acceptance and tolerance, right? So, for me, the way I look at the two of them is acceptance is I'm accepting the situation as what it is. That doesn't necessarily mean I like it, but I accept that this is what I'm being given. This is what I'm adapting to. I'm no longer resisting it or fighting it. It's just this is what it is, and I'm going to now adjust and continue on with my day. Whereas tolerance to me feels a little bit more passive aggressive. Tolerance to me means like I don't like it. I'm going to make it known that I don't like it, but I can't change it. So I'm just going to, be pissy and deal with it. Um, like it would be the way I envision tolerance in my mind is, talking to somebody that believes apples are the best, I guess, right? They believe apples are the greatest, and you don't tolerate that, or you don't agree with them, but you let them eat their apples. But every time they have an apple, you got something to say. You got a little remark every time. Like it's obvious that you don't agree with apples, and that's kind of how I view tolerance. In other words, you're not inhibiting the thing from taking place, but you're also just, if you could change it in a second, you absolutely would, and you still fight and struggle with the idea that it's allowed to continue. To me, I think that's the difference between tolerance and acceptance. And then, of course, agreement, where that typically rears its head, is so many people think by accepting, you're agreeing. By accepting that this is what it is, you're agreeing that you like it, and it's like an affirmative position.
Right.
And that's obviously not the case.
Right.
So you have any immediate? Oh, we got a couple new people that popped in here. Well, one person.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we got some comments here from William Sanchez, a new guy. Welcome. I haven't seen him comment yet before. Says stop ban guns and the annoying orange and guns with magazines. Let me see. We put it up there.
Let's see. There you go. Oh,
the first one was stop ban guns and the annoying orange and guns with magazines of violence. video games with guns and cars and dogs, and songs with bad words. They make people criminals. And then he followed that up with, when I become president, I will ban guns and the annoying orange and guns with magazines and violence. He kind of just keeps going. And then says, who will vote for me when I become president? Tell me in the comments. Okay, please. And then,
That's funny.
yeah,
Look,
well, wrong show, I would say. Tune in on Friday.
that's Friday's
Fridays.
show.
Yeah, Friday we dig more into politics and
Right.
the topics of the day. And we
Is that a
already kind of
relative of
covered.
mine? It's a Sanchez. It's a Sanchez. ¿Qué pasó,
Right?
señor Sanchez? Is that a relative? Anyway, so look, accepting something. If you accept something, going back to what you said about externally, it looks the same, right? If I accept something, I don't really have to engage in it. I don't have to believe it. I just have to accept that it's something that you choose to do or you like to do, or it's a truth. And it really doesn't affect my world. Accepting something just simply means I'm not going to be a jerk about it for you, and I'm not going to get in your way, right? Tolerating something, same thing. But tolerating something, I really don't even have to even accept it. I just not even bothered. Like, it's not going to change my world, not going to change my life. Just don't get in my way. And then obviously when you believe in something, or you find something as truthful, or how did we word it on this? You said acceptance, tolerance, and what?
Agreement.
If I agree with something, that's very different, because that's externally different, because then I'm going to be doing this stuff. And in I guess my visual for all that I was saying, Trinity, is like, if there's we're in Pride Month, right? So in Pride Month, there's typically a Pride parade somewhere, right?
Sure.
So if I tolerate gay pride, or I tolerate the LGBT community, if I just tolerate it, I'm okay with you having a gay pride month, and I'm okay with you having a gay pride parade. I just don't want it to block my traffic going to work, and I'm fine. Yeah, it's I don't see no evil, hear no evil. I just go about my daily business. If I accept gay pride and I accept the LGBTQ community, then I'm probably going to say at least, hey, congratulations this month, or at least have a conversation or two with some
Right.
people that I may know that are part of that community. I'm going to wave at them when they have their parade go by. Hello, but I'm going to, I'm not going to pull over. I'm just going to still drive, but I'll just go around. And if I accept it, if I believe
Agree.
it, and if I agree with it, then I'm probably going to stop, go to the parade, put some different colors on myself, and go, hey, how you doing, as you come by in your floats, or maybe I'm even going to be on a float myself. So those are the
Right.
three visuals with agreeing, accepting, and tolerating that I come up with. I don't know if you come up with different visuals, but those are the things that I kind of get, because there's obviously the opposite, right, of being intolerant. So I would rather somebody be tolerant and not have to agree with me and not have to accept me, but just at least don't be intolerant. Because when you're intolerant, then you're going to fight me. You're going to get into a discussion. You're going to try to fight the situation. You're just going to be jerky, right? If you don't accept it, then you're not only going to be annoying, but you're always going to try to give a counter view, or you're going to try to be passive aggressive to kind of turn something back over that is probably already acceptable, but you're never going to be okay with it. You're always going to find a way to change it back. And obviously, if you don't agree with it, you're going to voice your displeasure. You're going to voice your disagreement, and again, cause discourse, and you're going to speak more than you listen. So obviously, I would love that all of us, on all issues, become accepting of other people, become tolerant of all types of people, including those that are not of the LGBTQ community, including those that are white or black or brown or mixed, of all religions and faiths and belief systems. And then, of course, I don't have to agree with you, but if you do choose to agree, well, then come right along. But if we all agreed with each other, then we'd be in a very sad place, because
Hmm.
then everybody would be yes men to each other, and we would never challenge each other's thinking, never grow from each other. I don't know. Look, have you ever met a couple that just agrees with each other all the time? They don't even seem real. They seem like a fake
Yeah.
couple, right? Like
Well,
Dana and I disagree a lot. We verbalize our disagreement a lot. And I think that's what keeps it really cool. I mean, she has her views. I have my views. I didn't want to marry me. If I wanted to marry me, why would I marry another person? I would just be solo.
right.
Well, I have nothing to do with. God, I would get sick of me 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live with me. And that's funny you bring up marriage, whatever, because that was actually the example that popped in my head while you were talking. Is it's unrelated, obviously, to Pride Month, but we're trying to get across these concepts so they don't necessarily have to involve Pride Month. It's just Pride Month was, a catalyst for us to think of tolerance and stuff.
Right.
And I see Richard's comment, and I'm going to address that in a second. But let me.
Okay.
So my example that popped in my head, right? It's a trivial, stupid example, but to me, once again, focusing from a spiritual perspective, where we're trying to bring about less suffering for ourselves. That's how I envision this conversation, right? Whenever these ideas come up. So my wife never watches, so I'm gonna tell on her in a minute. My wife has this idiosyncrasy about her. She has this little thing, right?
Uh-oh.
When it comes to dishes and the sink and stuff like that, right? She, for whatever reason, has like this weird kind of thing about having like a dish on the sink or on the counter next to the sink, right? We have a dishwasher. We don't use it. We do dishes by hand or whatever. And so if there's like a cup or whatever it is, it's on the counter right next to the sink. When she's cleaning, she'll just leave it in the sink, right? I, on the other hand, do a lot more of the dishes in the house just because I don't really mind it. She despises it. I don't mind it. I don't ever do floors because I despise it. She doesn't mind it. So that's our little trade off. But as somebody who does the dishes or has to cook or whatever, for me, I don't like going to try to do something in the sink and there's a cup or something in there that blocks my ability to do what I was trying to do. It's kind of frustrating. So for me, it's like, just leave it on the counter because you have to take it out to do the dishes anyways. You can't do it while it's in there, right? So for me at first, I didn't tolerate that, right? Or I did tolerate that. It was annoying. It was frustrating. Every time I went there, I was just like, dude, seriously, like, why do you keep doing this? Like, it was annoying to me. And I would bring it up to her, like, dude, why? What is the purpose of this, right?
No.
This is early on in our marriage. And so I tolerated it in the sense that I didn't make a big deal out of it, and we didn't fight over it or anything, but it was frustrating every time I went to go look at it. I would sometimes say something, or I would even be passive aggressive times. So one time I was, to be funny, I lined a whole bunch of them out on the counter just to be a prick. It was all in good fun. Anyways, but that tolerance, it was rubbing me the wrong way, right? Because I didn't really accept that that's just a quirk that she has. I tolerated it, meaning I didn't create a big fuss, but it still bothered me every time I saw it. It was still an issue. And so it moved into acceptance. And for me, acceptance is that's just who my wife is. I don't really care.
Right.
It's not a big deal. That's it's funny. I'll mess with her, occasionally, but it's more of an inside joke. But it doesn't like affect my day. When I see it, I expect it to be there. If I come out in the morning, like this morning, it was out there. That's what made me think of it. And I just don't care, right? Like I see it, and I wouldn't do it. That's not how I do things. But I don't have a need to make her do differently or to explain to her why her way is the wrong way or anything. I just okay. That's who she is. But I think a lot of people hear that and they skip straight to what they think is agreement, meaning I agree with her. That's how it should be done, and it's going to encourage her. And so I think that's where it gets sticky in the sense of it's not my place to agree or disagree with where that's how she's a grown woman, and if that's how she chooses to handle things, I'm in no position to tell her not to. And so in order for me to stop suffering on my end, I had to just accept it for what it is. Is it the way I would do it? No, but I accepted it, meaning it's not an issue for me every day. I don't. It doesn't bother me. Am I signing off on the behavior? It's not for me to sign off or not sign off. Like I'm not her father. I'm not her mentor. I'm her equal, and so I'm not in a position to tell her what she should or shouldn't do. And so I think that that's where it gets murky sometimes. And to Richard's comment here, let me see. Let me put his up. He said, "What happens when acceptance and tolerance compromises right versus wrong?" I think that that's where we get sometimes, depending on the issue, right? Like I don't know if you had a specific thing in mind, but in general, right and wrong, I think that's where we get in trouble. That's where the suffering happens, is because we have this idea of what is right, and that might be right for you, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's right for the other people you're talking to. And I think that's where you start thinking about what should be as opposed to what is. And once again, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, the suffering, the internal suffering. And of course, he followed that up with "You are the man of the house," which I'm not even going to address. It's funny, I get it. But yeah, I think that.
Are you not?
Am I not?
Are you not, Trinity?
I am a man of the house. Like, but yeah, I mean, but what does that even mean? We're not in the 1930s anymore. So, um, our house, the way we run
Yep.
it, is a little bit more compromised. It's a
This
little bit
house is
more,
in the 80s. This house is in
yeah,
the 80s right here. Not in
right.
the 30s, but we're in the 80s right here, man. I'm
Well,
just
and
kidding.
the way that things work in my house is we compromise. We work on things. I do a lot of the cooking as well.
Mm,
It's a flow of the house. It's whatever works for us and how we manage to do it, and that's
right,
that's kind of how it goes. Neither one
right,
of us tried to. We did that in the beginning, as I think most couples do, right? When you first get married, we both tried to impose our will on things and what we thought should happen, and it didn't work out well. I mean, there was a lot
right,
of infighting. There was a lot of disagreement. There wasn't a whole lot of compromise. And we learned very quickly that for our house, that just doesn't work. It typically
right.
leads to more conflict and more happiness. And I think part of
And
that,
I'm
though, is learning to accept. Go ahead.
and I'm in old-fashioned world over here, so it's like it's very interesting because I did not know that Dana was going to be the person that she became, and I didn't know I was going to become the person I became. But we ended up being pretty old fashioned. Like she ended up when we started having children, she chose to stay home and raise the kids, and I was cool with that. It's different. In today's world, it's more unique. Since the 70s, really, that women would work and men would work, and you'd be a latchkey kid and all that kind of stuff, right? But we chose the path of Dana staying home, and it's been really cool. My daughters were able to have my wife the whole entire time. And I don't think that you should. I don't think there's a right way or wrong way. I just think that was our way, like you said. Your way is your way. Our way is our way. I don't think that Dana or nor I, forced the situation. It kind of just naturally became what it became, and it's really cool. Um, but moving forward from that, on some of the things that you were talking about, um, you know, and I'm looking at it internally, Trinity, like you were saying. So from the internal person, if I simply tolerate something, right? um, I'm still going to be bothered. I'm still going to develop resentment because I'm only tolerating it. I'm sticking around, I'm staying near, but the whole time in my head, even though outwardly I'm not projecting it, I'm still just frustrated with it. So whenever I get with my people, uh, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to mention my displeasure. I'm going to voice what I feel over there I can't voice, right? That's tolerating something. Um, but if I accept something, I allow myself to have that kind of peace, that peaceful mind, like you're talking about. I'm not suffering from it. I'm just letting it be what it be. It's a lot more respectful, right? I'm respecting the situation for what is. I'm respecting the other person when I'm accepting of the other person. And then, of course, if I agree with the person, that just comes real easy, right? But I found myself that in times of not being well myself, I could argue with a person I agree with. I can actually take issue with a person I agree with because when I'm unhappy, I'm going to create that unhappiness or I'm going to breed that unhappiness everywhere. So it wouldn't matter whether I accept you, tolerate you, or agree with you. I'm still, if I'm upset with me or if I'm upset with my place in this world, I'm going to create tornadoes in every relationship. So I think it's
Oh yeah.
it's not only important to understand how much we take into all relationships, whether it be interpersonal or personal, but how all three of these scenarios impact you as an individual and kind of like lead you to implode or explode. And definitely tolerance is one of those things. If you're simply tolerating something and that's as far as you can get, um, be very careful because you will probably explode or implode at some point. Because that means you're walking around with your glass full, and all it's going to take is a drop to spill over.
And that's where I think lies a major problem with interpersonal conflict. I hear, right? Like a lot of people who come to me over the years,
Hmm.
this idea has come about. I'll talk to them about accepting stuff, and they'll say, "No, I am accepting of it." It's like, "No, you're tolerating it." There's a big difference there. And I think like a lot of people tolerate stuff, not realizing they
Right.
think that they're accepting it, and they're really not. And because, like you said, if you're tolerating something, that means you're just not actively trying to change it anymore, but
Right.
you want it to change, and you're waiting for it to change,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Hmm.
but you're just allowing it. You're just not purposely going out of your way to stop it anymore. The
Hmm.
big difference there, like, and once again, it's all about the inner peace, right?
Hmm.
Outwardly, you don't like it does in a sense, right? You think that you're not showing it outwardly, but you kind of are. And in ways that passiveness will start to come out because, as you pointed out, resentment will begin to build because you're going to continue to wonder why this person doesn't change it. You're going to continue to try to figure out their logic in doing it, which you'll never be able to do because you're always going to come up short.
Yeah.
and trying to figure out that logic. And then
And
it's
you're
going to
not going
start.
to be supportive.
No, you will not be supportive. You'll at first keep a distance, right? Because you think you're doing the right thing, but then that resentment will slowly build, and then you'll start to get more and more like passive aggressive with things and resentful. Like it just the next thing you know, it leads into all these other areas of your life that you didn't expect it to, because it's like a poison that starts to spread. And that's why acceptance. They always, the thing I tell people a lot is happiness is so much closer to acceptance than it is to pleasure. We have this
Mhm.
idea that happy is a 10, right? Like the feel good moments, the joyful moments of our life, we think that that's happy, but it's
Mhm.
not. That's joy and pleasure, right? Happiness is like a contentment. It's I'm good, right? It's an inner peace. It's accepting things for what they are, not what you want them to be.
Mhm.
And that's a hard concept, right? Because as a society, we think we can have it all, right? We as a society, we have this idea that we can literally, if we do the right thing, say the right thing, surround ourselves with the right people, we can literally have this life of pain-free existence, that
Mhm.
everything's just going to go smoothly. You know how many times I've heard, and you might even inadvertently laugh at this. You know how many times I've been watching these shows like Married at First Sight and stuff like that, where they're like new couples and they're learning how to be married. At least once an episode, one of the couples, no matter what show I'm watching, will all say, "Marriage shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard." And I can't help it but to laugh my ass off. It's like, why? Like, who told you that? It's you're taking two people from completely different backgrounds with different wants, different views, different everything, and you're
Yeah.
putting them together as one. Of course, it's hard. That's why it's worthwhile, because it takes work.
Yeah.
Um, but we
And
do.
what isn't?
Yeah. Well,
What
that's what I'm
relationship
saying.
isn't hard?
Exactly. Like we fool ourselves into this idea that today's going to be the day, right? If I only do this, my whole day is just going to go awesome. And that is the first noble truth, guys.
Mhm.
Pain is a part of life. You're never going to have a day where every single thing flows your way. It's just not going to happen.
Mm.
And so the more we fight that idea, the more suffering we're creating for ourselves. And that, to me, a big part of that is acceptance and tolerance. We have to learn to just accept things, man. And
Mhm.
I know there's somebody right now, and I haven't read the comment yet, but Richard's making a comment, which is probably pertaining to that, I'm assuming. Um,
Mhm.
People just assume that because you accept it, you're agreeing with it, like you're giving them the green light and the permission to do so.
Right. Right.
Well, in a sense, you are giving them a green light to be who they are, right? You're not giving them a green light to infringe upon you, because you can still set boundaries in your life. But you are giving them a green light to be who they are, where they're at on their journey.
Mm.
Just like you're trying to be where you're at on your journey. Who you are today is not who you're going to be 10 years from now.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things I know you and I talked about that we were going to bring up today is reflection, right? Like
Mhm.
how many of us were intolerant or not in agreement or whatever it is in our lives in the past. And as we grow, we look back and we realize like, wow, like I really wish I knew then or I wish I knew then what I know now, I guess is what it is.
Mhm.
Um, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand what that phrase meant. As I've gotten older, boy, do I understand what that means. Like 100%. What did Richard say here? He said, let me see. We have compromised character, integrity, and accountability in the name of acceptance and tolerance. And no, I'm not sorry to say that we are a weaker people because of it. I don't know if I would agree with that.
Mm.
You'd have to define weaker, I think. Because I don't know if we've gotten more accepting
I
and tolerant. I think we're more like we preach acceptance and tolerance, but if you look at what we're actually doing, there's not a lot of acceptance and tolerance happening right now, because
Mm-mm.
the when I was a kid, there was one side that wasn't very accepting of gay individuals and the way they live their life, right? They were not accepting at all. They were very intolerant. And then where we're at now is the whole other side is not intolerant of the people who just don't agree with that lifestyle. You don't
Right.
agree with that lifestyle, suddenly you're the enemy and you're the bad person. So while I think people preach and talk tolerance, I don't think they're actually doing it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree with the next comment that Marissa on Facebook Live said. The ones preaching acceptance and tolerance are the least tolerant and accepting. It's disgusting sometimes, and that is, I think, what I've said multiple times on these shows is that I'm bothered by that major fact. I grew up a certain way where I really thought that the younger generations have always moved us forward in a good place, good way. I mean, to the point where I think it was funny the other day. I saw a young person on TV go, "We're going to be the generation where to make it okay to be a person of color or different gender." And I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute, you're like 20. We, what do you think the 70s kids did? What do you think the 80s kids did? You know, they were the ones that began this journey in a very hard way. I mean, it's kind of easy to pick up a ball and run with it when there's already a ball on the field that you can pick up and run with. That ball wasn't
Yeah.
even on the field, man. There was, a matter of fact, you didn't even think that you're even allowed on the field. So you're not the generation that is moving this needle. This needle
No.
has been moved through a lot of violence and a lot of suffering and a lot of pain. There was some serious, I don't know what they're teaching you in school in regards to how it was, but I think you think that everything before you was like cavemanish. And that's not true. That's not the way it was. I think what you're not understanding, this war was already won. It may not be 100% where you want it. Well, that's because you're now redefining some of the things that are considered accepting or tolerant, right? I think the terms have changed. I think the problem is that you ever sign a contract, Trinity, and you know how like it has definition of terms. Do you know
Yeah.
why there's definition of terms on a contract? Because you can never assume that we are all defining the terms
Yeah.
equally. So
Yeah.
even though we use common English words, we disagree on what Webster meant. So you have to define terms in a contract.
Yeah.
And this is no different. So I feel as a half Mexican, half Puerto Rican, first generation American, that early in my life, yes, I heard the words wetback and spick way too often, even though I come from predominantly like Spanish areas. There was a lot of putting the Spanish kid, the black kid, and the Asian kid together in the back or the side of the classroom, and we were always friends. It was me, the black kid, and the Asian kid. That's how that is that little group, and we felt comfortable with each other because we had some common bond, right?
Right.
But as I've grown older, I've come to realize there's a lot of people that worked to change that. It wasn't us because we were still the minority. It was actually the majority of the population, the 70 or 80% of the population, that a great number of that 70 and 80% loved us and accepted us. So as I was growing older, I was always focused on that small percentage of white Americans that did not accept us, the small percentage of white Americans that had the big mouth. And I would like broad stroke all of them. And my parents just would not accept it. They would not accept it and would say, it is not like that. Do not talk like that. It's not like that in this country. And I'd be like, oh, you guys are so ridiculous. You guys just don't know the way this country is. This country's racist. This country's this. Blah, blah. And I would go on and on. And we were both right. But except I was focused and my perception was focused on the ugly of this world. And my parents were focused on the hope and love of this world. They brought us into this country. They wanted to build their lives and their futures in this country. You know what I mean? So they had a way different perception than I did. Now, as an older man, as raising my kids and going through this and seeing some of the comments that some kids make, you would think that they're in the 1960s by some of the comments.
Yeah.
I'm saying, dude, not only is it not as bad as you're saying it is, it wasn't even that bad when I was a kid, and it was pretty bad when I was a kid. But you're talking as if you're my parents' age, talking about their suffering that they experienced. And so let's not do that. And I don't think we should do that with color issue. I don't think we should do that with gender issue. I don't think we should do that with sexuality issue. I don't think we should do that with any issue. We are nowhere near the caveman days, nowhere near that type of mentality. I think we should constantly celebrate and be grateful to the generation directly above us and say, thank you for pushing the ball as far forward as you did so that I can have a voice to push it just a little bit further in a different direction or another direction, maybe even the same direction. But we're going to take it from here because we are now the ones that are going to live with it longer. Now, that makes a lot more sense to me. If you talk like that with older generations, then that's respect to the previous generations. I think where older generations get frustrated, me be no different, is that when someone pretends that all of a sudden they invented and created something out of nowhere and that everyone of age or everyone from another time period or color or gender preference or sexuality preference is ignorant and doesn't understand and doesn't get it. I think
Right.
that shows your personal ignorance and ridiculousness. And I think that's where we have to be a lot more accepting of each other rather than just tolerant, because we just saw what happened. We were all tolerating
Yeah.
each other for a long time. And then we had a black president. And having a black president created some people that were just being tolerant. It frustrated the hell out of them. It boiled over a little bit on them. And then so we got Donald Trump. And for some reason, people took a white New Yorker that was real gaudy with his goldish and loved by 90% of black people loved Donald Trump back then. All of a sudden, they convinced you guys that he was some redneck from the South, this New Yorker guy that hung out with all black athletes. All of a sudden, now he's this racist redneck from the South. And that became what it is. So now we're even less tolerant, and now we got all up in arms, and now we have this guy that we have to just be accepting that this is where we're at, because we're now in a place where we're not voting for people to lead, we're voting for who not to lead. And that's where we're at now. We're at a place where we're all just picking a leader that it's not the other person.
Well, I think that's what tolerance gets you.
And that is,
I think
that's my point. That's exactly where tolerance got us. Tolerance got us, and it all happened because we could not tolerate at least politically, like what I just said. I think that's how a lot of this started. It didn't start with George Floyd. I know a lot of you that think about George Floyd have no idea who Rodney King is and what Rodney King talked about and the changes that happened because of Rodney King. But if George Floyd is your Rodney King, okay. But I think even Rodney King would be the first to say, look, I'm no saint. It's just that I didn't deserve that. You know what I mean? But don't, to make someone into like sainthood because they became what they became, or they got hurt the way they got hurt. I think it just creates more of this. All right, well, then I'm still not going to tolerate you, because there's no way you fully understand the situation. And that's what tolerance gets you. Like you said, it just gets you to boil over in the future. So please, we got to work towards acceptance. So I disagree with Richard on this fact that by accepting somehow that makes us a weaker person. I don't think acceptance makes you a weaker person. I think it actually makes you a stronger person, because it allows you to understand humanity. Humanity is humanity, and humanity is allowed to be wrong. It's allowed to be right. It's allowed to be ugly. It's allowed to be beautiful. I think the problem with it is we're no longer allowed to use words like ugly, but we should. Right. Some of you are ugly. You're behaving ugly, and we just need to put some makeup on and look a little prettier.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that, because that was kind of what I was going to say next was the idea of weakness, right? Because I used to think compassion was a weakness. I grew up with the mindset of turning your cheek only gets you hit harder, kind of a thing. I thought compassion was only for wimps. As I've gotten older, as I've gotten wiser, as I've had children, and I see the world in a much different view, I don't see that as weakness anymore. I think it's a truly strong person that can, because to me, the argument can be made, number one, when you're approaching the situation as right or wrong, you're already lost, because you're assuming that you know right and wrong. You're assuming that you're allowed to make that decision, and what you classify as right is whatever you think. And the other side feels the exact same way. They disagree with you, but in their mind, they're right. And so if your goal is to be right, then yes, I can see how it's a weakness. My goal isn't to be right, though. My goal is to be happy. My goal is to have some inner peace and be happy. And what that means is sometimes I'm going to have to give some ground. And I don't think that's a weakness. I think it is a strength. I think it takes a strong person to look inward and get over your own biases, your own ego, your own thought process, and see the truth of the matter and see both sides. Right. I think it takes a much stronger person to do that. And Marissa just commented on Facebook too. It says you're looking at right or wrong as absolutes. I agree. Like there is no absolute. Like that's your perspective. Right. But if you lived on your own island, I think that'd be totally awesome. But we don't. Go ahead.
And I want to add to that. So let's approach some of that, because I hear what Richard's saying. I hear you, Richard.
I hear him too.
And Richard's on Facebook Live. Yeah, we hear you. I guess what I'm thinking here is, I don't have to agree with someone to accept them. That's what we're talking about today. I don't have to agree with them. I just have to accept that that's where they're at, and I'm not changing them. If I keep on trying to change them, or if I continue to get frustrated because I'm trying to change them, because I'm simply tolerating their existence, or if I'm being intolerant, then I'm going to run my entire life beating my head against a wall and just being frustrated and unhappy. Now, how is that going to affect my personal relationships? If I'm angry and upset with you, and I think that you're wrong, and I think by accepting you as a human being and accepting you of being wrong, see, part of acceptance is allowing you to be wrong. I'm going to let you be wrong. That's on you. And I'm going to, my definition of wrong. In other words, if I consider myself right, I have to accept you being wrong if I disagree with you, right? Okay. But the point is, if I fight that, and if I'm fighting with you, how is that going to affect when I'm laying in bed with my wife? How is that going to affect my conversations with my circle, my inner circle? How is that going to affect my conversations with my kids? It's gonna come out. It's that aggression, that frustration. It's gonna come out. Now, how they interpret that aggression or frustration or words might not even be anywhere near the intention that I gave it to them. Maybe I was talking like that because I was thinking about you and I was thinking about your point and how I disagree with you and how I think you're wrong. But the way they're interpreted is maybe dad doesn't like me. Maybe my husband doesn't like me. Is he mad at me? Did I do something wrong? They might interpret that same frustration that I'm experiencing and they might take it personal. So that is the way the world moves. We are all constantly taking personal what someone's attitude is coming at us, but we're forgetting that they live an entire life prior to even interacting with us. But all of that emotion and stuff that they gathered up, that split second when they're in our near 6 foot, when they're in our 6 foot sphere, we're expecting them to be very nice, respectful, and polite. Because if they're not, then now it's going to ruin my day. But that's the way it works, man. So the more we can be pleasant with ourselves and the more we can accept other people, then when we're walking and bumping into people and getting into their 6 foot of space, maybe we don't project some sort of negativity and anger and frustration so that they don't go home and kick their dog.
Yeah, and here's another comment that he made while you were talking. Once again, for those of you who are listening or watching on, there's people watching on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch. So if you want to comment and be a part of the discussion, by all means. He said, so it's okay to compromise a moral standard as long as you are happy.
No.
So what I would say is I don't. You got to stop thinking that allowing other people to be who they are is somehow compromising your morals.
Correct.
It's not. Like you're still able to live your life. The difference is not everybody shares your moral standard. They look at it differently and they're allowed to. That's the country we live in. That's the space that we're at. Number one. Number two, you don't have the ability to affect other people's lives the way you think you do, right? It's their life. And so you can't go around with this like morality stick trying to beat everybody into submission. It's never going to work. Instead you be the change, right? Like, you attract rather than promote. Instead of trying to hold everybody else to the standards that you think they should be, you live your life to the best you can. You do your thing and you allow them to be wherever they're at on their journey. Because even who you are today is not who you were 10, 15, 20 years ago. Your mindset of what it was, you grew, you evolved. That didn't happen because somebody was beating you over the head telling you to do differently. It happened because you went through life and you saw things differently, and it occurred to you in an intrinsic way, hey, this isn't what I want. Because at the end of the day, that's all we are trying to do, is we're all trying to find happiness. So the problem is oftentimes we convince ourselves that happiness is just a whatever away. If I could just get this person to see this, then I'd be happy. If I could just get them to do this, I'd be happy. If I could just have this thing, I'd be happy. And that's the problem, because that doesn't make you happy. Acceptance is what makes you happy.
Yeah.
He says, okay, I will give you a specific example. The New York Times has been printing op-eds that claim that child molestation is the same as homosexuality. It's a lifestyle we should learn to understand and accept. Thoughts? Well, see, first of all, that's a classic example. That hasn't affected my life in any way, shape, or form. I didn't even know they did that until you told me. And I just choose not to read the New York Times. I choose not to participate.
Yeah.
If somebody were to say that to me, I would disagree with them. And I think we already have laws in place for child molestation. So it's not like the New York Times is actually creating any sort of change. It's just one person's opinion who wrote an op-ed. I can choose to disagree with them. There's no laws that are being changed, so it really isn't affecting me in any way, shape, or form unless I allow it to. Like, I can very well read that and get upset and be like, "You believe this?" Or I can just dismiss it. Like I stepped on some gum in a parking lot. Is it suck? Yeah, but am I going to tell my grandkids that back in 2020 I No, it's just scrape it off, move on with your day. It's not worth the frustration. Now, if somebody were to come into my home and tell me that I have to now accept that they're going to molest my child, that's a different situation. Somebody writing an op-ed thousands of miles away with their opinion that has no real authority to do anything versus somebody who's actually, coming into my home and doing something, then that's different. And I think we have to stop thinking about that. We have to stop. There's an old phrase like if all you have is a hammer, then every problem you see is a nail. Like if you're approaching everything from right or wrong from this very like righteous kind of this stance, then you feel right in your stances. You feel morally, superior in a way that you could justify all sorts of egregious behavior. I mean, look at the Crusades, dude. They've been doing it for years. This idea that I'm right and you're wrong really starts to make people think that they can do whatever they want because they have the power of truth on their side, and that's that doesn't typically lead anywhere good.
And I would like to further comment on that, if I may.
Sure.
Richard on Facebook Live was the one that put that up there. And Richard, I don't think that I don't think I need to worry about the op-ed, and I'll tell you why. I will accept it. I'll accept that a person feels that way. It's not the first time I've heard someone say something like that. I think there's been a big push the last several years from certain individuals that feel that we should change those names of that violation.
NAMBLA, the National Man Boy Love Association.
Yeah, and I'm not thrilled with it. I accept that they exist. I think it saddens me that there are individuals that are still being mistreated and abused while they're still in their youth. But I don't correlate the two. I don't put the two together, and I don't think they should have done that. I think the New York Times, if they did indeed, I didn't see the article, so I'm going to have to say if they did indeed publish articles that would say this, I think it's unfortunate for the gay population that they actually put child molestation and gay in the same sentence, almost making it like somehow relatable, because it's not. Child molestation is just as relational to the LGBTQ community as it is to the straight community. I don't think that either community owns it, and I don't think either community is okay with it. So first of all, I think we need to separate that. Child molestation is a specific issue of dysfunction that all treatments seem to have failed that we have come up with in the psychiatric world and in the psych world. Our legal system somehow tends to fail in that regard as well. We don't really truly understand the problem. We don't truly know how to arrest the problem or change the problem. It's a very, very generational problem. It's been happening since the days of Plato, if not before. And we just don't know how to stop it or prevent it fully. But we do, and here's where acceptance comes in. I don't tolerate the behavior at all. I don't even accept the behavior. I accept that people think that that's okay for them, but that doesn't make me do anything towards them unless they violate it. And then I think they should be criminalized, right? It's a criminal situation, and I think they should go to jail. And if it was my child, I'd probably be even willing to go to jail myself. As a matter of fact, I know I would. I would be willing to go to jail myself because I will intervene. But I accept that that's what you want to do. Just stay the hell out of my way and stay the hell out of any child's life. You can think all you want, but I'm not going to accept the actual behavior. I can accept that you think that way and feel that way. I just choose that. I choose to stand in your path should you want to present that behavior anywhere near me or around me. That's how acceptance works to me. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. I can't change their behavior. I can't change them, Richard. And me feeling that they're morally wrong doesn't mean damn to them. It doesn't do anything. Me walking around frustrated and worried that it's going to somehow become normalized, that's not going to do any good for me, man. I can't walk around fear-based. There's a lot of laws that I can fear. Oh my God, the world's going to hell. Oh my God, this country's going to hell. You know what? I look at the days of the Spanish Inquisition. I look at the days of the Knights of the Round Table. I look at days of suffrage in this country. I look at the days where everybody was walking around like just killing each other, murdering each other, burning each other. I look at the days of the Civil War. We've never been this civilized, Brady Bunch country. There's never been a Brady Bunch world. These people just think it's only America and somehow everywhere else is peaceful, is full of crap too. This whole world has been volatile. We're animals, man. If you're alive today, you're part of a warring species that won. You probably have ancestry that killed other people before, because that's why you're here. That's how you're here. This world was vicious, a lot more vicious than it is today. Can you imagine when we all were actually in loincloths? Do
Yeah.
we really just believe that only darker people started in loincloths? Why is it that everyone believes that only darker people started in loincloths? As if anyone lighter skinned showed up from outer space somewhere fully clothed and with guns in their arms. No,
Yeah.
it's not the way where everybody has been a warring nation, regardless of civility.
Yeah,
Everybody.
and once again, let me preface this all by saying what the angle that we're coming at. Yeah, I see it. The angle that we're coming at is one of I'm trying to find inner peace, right? If your goal is to be right, and if your goal is to change the world, um, I got bad news for you, man. It's never going to happen. You're going to change maybe little ripples, little areas, but the world as a whole doesn't care about what you think. They're going to do what they do. And so for me, it's the equivalent of looking at the ocean and getting mad at the waves that are coming in. And you're yelling at the waves, and then no matter what you do, you're not going to stop the waves from coming in. Now, you can argue that it's eroding the beach and stuff. You can argue that it's doing damage. So then you could you could build walls and dams and cities and things of that nature to adjust and to accommodate that. But you have to accept the fact that the waves are going to continue to come. That's just how it works. And so for me, the what I'm trying to get across here is that so many of us in this world are suffering right now. And what I mean by suffering is mentally. We're replaying things. We're running this narrative in our head that's causing us to get depressed, anxious, mad, angry, all these feelings that are not productive and not helpful. And we're doing it to ourselves. That's really what the spirituality comes from, is we keep thinking the way things should be. And then we set out to try to make everything line up the way we think it should be. And that's a futile thing, because you're never going to do that. You might fool yourself into thinking that, but you're really not changing anything other than what you're looking at. And so where acceptance comes into play is accepting things, the serenity prayer, right? Accept the things that you can't change the things you can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Right.
There's some things in life you just cannot change. Other people is at the top of that list. You can't change anybody in this world, no matter how much you think you can.
Right.
They change themselves. Now you can inspire change, but you don't inspire change with a fist. You inspire change through love, through giving, through showing a better example, through providing help and compassion. That's how you change. That's how you inspire change. But you cannot change anybody ever. If they're obstinate, and there would be my dog. If you're obstinate and you're gonna, I'm gonna will you to, it's never gonna work, dude. And so at the end of the day, to keep us sane, right? And to keep that inner peace, because at the end of the day, I'm more effective in trying to motivate others, inspire others, if I'm at peace within myself. If I'm at war within myself, then all my responses are coming from a place of war and a place of conflict. So therefore, what I get out there to the world is not going to be interpreted the way I want it to be. And so if I find inner peace in myself, then I can be much more effective to those around me. And that's where acceptance comes into play. Accept the fact that some things just aren't going to be what you think they should be, and that's okay. Go ahead, man.
Now, what I was going to say is that so, and I hear, there's a lot of discussion going on Facebook Live. By the way, if you want to go to Facebook Live, there's all kinds of conversation, discussion going on there. What I was going to say was, when you can actually change the world. I'm going to disagree with Trinity in this a little bit, and hear me out. You can change the world, but just like Trinity said, it's not really disagreeing with him, and you'll see why. It's just a change of words. You can change the world. Everyone that actually set out to change the world, though, did it through violence and hurt and pain, and they actually changed it in a reverse direction than what they intended. In other words, the Idi Amins of the world, the Hitlers of the world, the people that said, I have a better way, I have a way that it should be done, the Fidel Castros of the world, they set out and they demanded change the way they wanted to change, and then it actually moved in the opposite direction than what they did. So they caused a hell of a lot of destruction and pain and hurt, and that's how the world changed. But it didn't happen the way they wanted to. And then you look at the Mandelas of the world, the Nelson Mandela. He didn't ask to change the world. Gandhi didn't ask to change the world. They did it by example. They just led by example, like Michelle on Facebook Live was saying that you just lead by examples. Don't worry about trying to change anyone. You just be the example in yourself. And we say it in the rooms. There's a lot of 12-step rooms out there that says attraction rather than promotion. Why do we say that in the rooms? Well, because you can't promote something to people that don't want it. You can't sell something to it's unsolicited advice. It's unsolicited sale, right? But if you just are attractive in nature, in attitude, in personality, in philosophy, in spirituality, then we want to follow you. We want to know more about you. We want to see how you get that, because we're all suffering. We all feel pain. So since we're all linked by that fact that we all have these human issues of pain, anxiety, depression, sadness, anger, and we see someone else that's able to maneuver through those difficult times and situations, but they do it without compromising who they are morally, without compromising what they believe, yet they're very accepting of other people, allowing them to be other people, then we want to be that. We want to feel that. We want part of that. That's how you lead. Nelson Mandela didn't ask to lead. He just did. He didn't ask to change the world. He just did. Those are the kind of people I think that we need to look up to. He didn't choose that role. He was just saying what he had to say, and people tend to buy into it. That's it. He didn't choose that. And then you have people, like I said, like Idi Amin, who says this is the way we have to be, and he was very murderous and killed people. And so those are the opposites.
And the entire time you were talking, my dog has been going nuts, and he threw up all over the floor.
Did he really?
Yes.
That's very intolerant of him.
Yes, I don't know what's going on with him today. It's coming out of both ends. So good times.
I made him sick.
Yes, he's sick with intolerance, right? Yeah, no, I agree 100%, man. And I know Richard's being facetious, but he commented, inner peace is a myth, life is a war, or whatever. I know he's being facetious, and I get that. And we love Richard. We love when him. Yeah, man, I enjoy his comments and stuff.
Well, it's necessary, right? His comments are necessary, and his thought process is necessary, and his kind of person is very necessary. And actually, him, Michelle, and Marissa, that are all commenting, they all agree on a lot of different points. Just on this point, they say it all differently, which I think that's the more even beautiful thing. I love that people can philosophically agree, but they say it differently, and I think that's the beauty of this. I think that even when we agree, we should say it differently. Even when we disagree, we should say it differently. And just allow all of our differences. That's what's beautiful about people, I think, is the differences. Again, of course, I don't want to look out in the world and see everybody that looks like me. If my wife looked exactly like me, that would be horrible. Horrible. Why would I want her to look like me and to sound like me and to laugh like me? I hate all those little things bother me. That's why I don't watch my own self. That's why I don't listen to my own radio show. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I don't like the way I sound. But that's part of the deal here, and I think, Richard made a comment actually earlier about how things have taken a horrible turn in this country, and I think quite the opposite as far as the reason why. He thinks the reason why is because of tolerance and acceptance and stuff. I think it's because of intolerance. Because like in this country, we can't even debate anymore. We can't even have an actual discourse with somebody without being called names and told that we're the problem and all these other things. Like, we no longer accept the fact that it's possible for somebody to be a good person and think differently than I do. Like, they've had different experiences and come from a different background, so therefore their perspective is different and it's equally as valuable, regardless if I agree or disagree. That mindset is gone in the mainstream these days. And so I think that is the opposite of acceptance. And so, no, I think that our country has taken a turn for the worse, or society in general, because I'm seeing it in other countries as well. And I think that's because we've become less tolerant and less accepting of the fact that other people. Once again, I can accept you, and I can even love somebody without letting them in my home. Like, right? I can accept you without agreeing with you. I can accept you without adopting your philosophy into my life. I can accept it. We handle things differently. I'm and it's okay. It doesn't bother me. I don't feel the need to go in and change you. I don't feel the need to tell you why you're wrong or why I'm right. I'm just going to let you live your life and be where you're at on your journey. Trivial things, man. I prefer a shaved head. I shave my head like as often as I can, because I don't I used to have long hair. I've had regular hair. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. It was a part of my day that I didn't look forward to having to wash it and dry it and comb it and style it and all those other things. I lost the desire to do that, so therefore I shaved my head. But I can accept the fact that there's a lot of people out there who don't want to do that. Does that mean that they're right or I'm wrong or whatever? No, it just means that's where you're at in your life. That's what you want to do. You very well may get to where I'm at, you might not, and that's okay. I don't feel the need. This is what I'm talking about with acceptance. I don't feel the need to go around and tell everybody that they need to shave their head in order to be comfortable, or I don't feel bad or ashamed to not, grow hair or whatever.
Right.
That to me is what we're talking about. Like, whether you have hair in your head or not doesn't affect my ability to shave my head and live my life. And so, obviously, that was a trivial example, but it's a microcosm of the bigger picture. The bigger
Right.
picture meaning there's going to be people out there. For instance, I've seen him make quite a few references to biblical and God and things of that nature. Um, full transparency. I myself am an atheist who practices Buddhism, but I have a lot of friends who are Christian, Muslim, Jewish. Matter of fact, I think I might only have like one or two friends that I know that are also atheists, and I don't know anybody else that practices a Buddhism. But I'm okay with that. Like, I don't feel the need to tell all of them to live differently. They don't feel the need to tell me to live differently. Those are the paths that we've taken, and we all can still come together for common good. We can all still treat each other with respect and dignity. One of my really good friends that I've known for a very long time, I used to joke that if you looked at the side by side, you think I was kidnapping him. He's like a 5'3" little Mexican dude with a full suit, and he's a Jehovah's Witness. He's not just any Jehovah's Witness. He's an elder. Like, he's like a like way up there. He speaks at their national conferences that they have. Um, on face value, him and I have nothing in common whatsoever. But the more him and I got to know each other over the years, we talked. Him and I agree on almost everything. We just don't agree on the reasons why. Like, we agree that you should be kind and treat each other well, whatever. His reasoning is biblical. Mine is just that's how I think it should be done.
Right.
So the end result is exact same. How we got there is different. And like he was saying, I think that's the beauty of it. That's the beautiful part, is we can all arrive to the same thing, just taking different vehicles. But until we learn how to accept that versus tolerate it, I think we're going to be stuck. And then that inner turmoil is going to take over every aspect of our life.
Yeah.
So, you got any final words, man, before we
Yeah, and not just accept it or tolerate it, but again, there's so much you don't have to agree with. You don't even have to agree with the show. You don't even have to agree with our format or
yeah.
our desire to allow people to be different and think differently. We choose not to attack people here that have different views than us. We have no problem discussing it, debating it, but there's no need to be evil and angry at each other or hurt each other or attack each other. There's a lot of that. There's too much of that. You know what I mean? I mean, that could easily be done, right? I think there's a lot of shows that do that now. I flip back from CNN to Fox News all the time, and both stations are constantly ragging on the other station. CNN's always talking
Yeah.
crap about Fox. Fox is always talking crap about CNN. And to be honest with you, both are pretty frustrating. And the reason I flip back and forth is because that's the only way I can kind of get at least something of what's going on and kind of get
Yeah.
my own opinion of how I feel about it. But they like to rile us up. They get us all frustrated, and I think that's where a lot of us come from. I think there's a lot of frustration out here in the world that's where we get frustrated with. I'm going to give an example where some of this acceptance and tolerance and this agreeing can be a problem. Our neighbor here, right? It's a small little story. So my wife's out there, cleaning, and my wife has finally given me permission to allow people to know, and she no longer is worried about being canceled and being attacked. If you know Dana, she's a beautiful, loving soul. Everybody just loves Dana. She's like nothing negative to anyone. But Dana is a person that loves organic food, loves to watch what she puts in her body. Has always been that way, and she never did the flu vaccine, and so it was no different when COVID came out. She just chose not to put it in her body. She researched it. She didn't like what she was reading. And she goes, I'm just not going to do this vaccine. And so I chose to get the vaccine. She chose not to. And that's the way we lived. And we kept it secret because people would judge her and people would say things if they knew, right? Because people were calling people that they weren't vaccinated like the problem, and attacking them. And I didn't like it. And I wanted to defend her and I wanted to speak about, well, no, man, there's some people that just don't agree with it and they just don't want to do it, right? They'd rather take that risk, right? So she's outside doing some lawn work this past weekend, and our neighbor, he's an older gentleman, and they got into the discussion how that this house finally got, what do you, COVID in December, right? When it seemed like the whole world got it all of a sudden again.
Right. Right.
And he goes, oh, and he goes, what, are you vaccinated? And he goes, Dana told him, no, I'm not vaccinated, but everybody else is. And he goes, oh, so you're the one that brought it into the house. And she just looked at him and she
Wow.
goes, yeah. And she goes, actually, no, our daughter is the one that got it and brought it into the house. And then she came and told me, and I'm like, see, that's the problem. That's the problem with not only not being accepting, not being tolerant, and not even agreeing, or only agreeing with your side or your view, only agreeing with your side and your view, is the fact that he actually has been programmed by whatever he's watching and listening to, that the only people that were getting it and passing it to everybody else was the unvaccinated. Now, how healthy is that, man? How cool? That is so uncool. That is just
Yeah.
sad that a grown adult, an intelligent man in so many other ways, could be programmed to believe that only the unvaccinated are getting COVID and passing it on. That is just sad. And so
Yeah. That's
these are
pretty
the kinds
brutal.
of things. Yeah, these are the kinds of things that I think are a problem with us. And it's on both sides. It's on all sides. It's just we got to stop, thinking that just because we think a certain way or we feel a certain way, it's everybody's truth and absolute, and it's not
Yeah.
so. And we just got to be a lot more accepting of other people. They have their choices. They're allowed to do whatever they want to do. Um, you know, uh, and I can choose to stay away from you if I want to. I can choose to not listen to you if I want to. But I just wanted to give one example of something that could have been hurtful to Dana if it was somebody that
Absolutely.
she actually cared enough about to care what they thought about her. In this case, Dana's really cool. She's able to laugh it off and go, "Look, I get it. There's just people that just they've been manipulated to believe a certain way, and if I'm the evil devil, then I am the evil devil to them. But that's not true. And oh well. Anyway, I just wanted to give that example. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
what
mean,
it
that
says,
was
I don't understand what Richard says. He says, I don't
Richard says,
understand why you would. I do accept it. I accept it. I accept that he's been manipulated. I accept him for being who he is and the old man that he is, but I'm not going to judge him for it and be like, oh, I'll never talk to him again, or I'm going to treat him differently. I just think that he got manipulated. I don't blame him. I think there's millions of people that got manipulated to believe that the only way to get out of this problem was everyone be vaccinated instead of that herd immunity, which actually the herd immunity is what proved to be true, I think, or a mixture of all of it, you know? So
yeah, no, absolutely.
anyway.
Um,
I hedged my bet. I got vaccinated because I hedged my bets, man.
yeah,
But I didn't get a booster. I ain't gonna get no damn booster because I'm not looking forward to any more stuff in my system that I have to put it. You prove to me something can prevent it, then
yeah.
then then we're talking, man. You give me the smallpox or the mumps or the one of those kinds of vaccines. I'll take it. You know what I mean? One of
Right.
those that make it so you can never get it. I'm good with
No, no,
that.
I hear you. Well, I took my vaccine, but I'm not doing the booster either. And it
No, I
came
do a
through my
booster.
house, and my wife and I are the only two in the house that didn't get it. Actually,
And on top of that, Trinity, I even told you this, right?
yeah,
All the rest of us sick as a dog. Dana, the unvaccinated, couple days,
yeah,
she kicked it right off like it was a splinter.
right.
I was down for the count. I was down for a week, man. I'm double vaccinated and I was
I
down
don't
for
know
a
how
week.
I didn't get it, man. My whole house had it except for my wife and I. And my wife got sick and took like 2 or 3 tests, but I was fine. I didn't even get a sniffle. So,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah,
Yep.
I think
Michelle's right. Dana's organic, healthy living. You're right about
right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll end it on just the same concept, man. Well, first and foremost, thank you all for watching. I appreciate the views, and by all means, if anything that we put out, if you think anybody would get some value from, by all means, feel free to share it, like it, things of that nature. If you have any topics that you'd like us to discuss, by all means, reach out to us on our social media, and we will oblige. He is at the Dope Doctor. I am at the Dharma Guy. Together, we are at Dope and Dharma. And by all means, if you ever want to watch us live or see the old videos of the shows, you can check it out on YouTube or Facebook, and you can go to Dope and Dharma. I think Twitch gets rid of them after a few days. And if you want to listen to podcasts, by any means, whatever podcast platform, we're on there. But yeah, I'll leave it with just this idea of what should be causes us so much stress and so much resentment and so much inner strife, uh, um, that we really got to start learning how to accept things as they are, not as we want them to be. I think that's what's causing a lot of our heartache out there, and we think in terms of right or wrong. And I think that's what's causing a lot of our internal struggle. So inner peace should be the goal. Being right shouldn't be the goal, because if your right is the goal, then there's always gonna be a new right. There's always going to be a new fight that you're going to have to get out there and prove that you're right, and you're never going to be truly satisfied. It's whereas if inner peace is your goal, then being right falls to the back seat compared to being happy. And I think that when that's our approach, when we have inner peace, certain things just start to look a lot different. And I, for one, found it, and I love it, and I'll never get rid of it. So, anyways, that's all we got for you today. Appreciate you guys, and now that you know better, do better. Peace.